Hello, my name is Valentina Castro, and for my final presentation, I will be discussing artificial intelligence in education and how do students use AI for homework-based assessments. So, when coming in and talking about this specific subject, it brings the question as to why I chose this and why I decided to do a year-long study and research of such a broad spectrum of a topic. And well, when discussing about AI in general. So many are aware of AI, obviously, because of how integrated it has become within society when it comes to business, healthcare, especially with academics as well, with students being the more common users of it. And it brings to the question of how students exactly utilize such a tool, bringing in many factors of discussion when it comes to ethical implications. Is it beneficial? Is it negatively impacting our society, especially with their new age generation of students, and if they become certainties when it comes to reliance, if they have an over dependence, not are more independent from it. It raises various questions, and especially when it comes to educators. And so for that, I wanted to delve in more on how exactly students want to utilize that, and how they, for again, reiterating myself, how they utilize such a tool. Existing research of AI when it comes to students isn't uncommon at all whatsoever. Here I have some sources stating that AI is seen as a crutch for writing support. AI brings in the question of ethical implications as well as academic integrity. And there are many other articles too explaining students' thoughts and personal usage on AI and how they feel about it, what do they believe, and how it further impacts them or impacts society. But through various hours of looking through and studying the subject, I didn't find any specific articles that pertain to how students use AI for homework-based assessments, which surprised me genuinely due to how when a teacher specifically gives a homework assignment, they expect the student to use it to apply skills that they learned within the classroom and apply that to assignments outside, therefore measuring the capabilities on how the class is going, if it's working or not, what doesn't work. Basically another way for teachers to help evaluate how their class is going. And again, like I said, it's to see if the student is actually applying the knowledge they know and learn from the classroom. And I also was surprised when there were hardly any research studies pertaining as to if students are more likely to use AI for certain subjects in school, like more history, STEM-based, more literary-based, as well as if certain assignment types have more AI usage than others, specifically multiple choice questions, more stimulus-based, writing essays, etc. So through those various inquiries that I had come to terms with that I had no answers for, I decided to take it upon myself to see how do students utilize AI for homework-based assessments specifically. So how would one exactly define AI? For it's an incredibly broad spectrum, with many programs specifically dubbing themselves as AI. So back in 1995, Professor McCarthy was the first one to coin such a term, stating the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer machines. Even though this term is incredibly broad, it's also incredibly outdated. So I decided specifically for this research study, I will use a more in-depth as well as a more direct definition. So from Russell Norvig back in 2020, he stated that artificial intelligence is the field of study and development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as reasoning, learning, problem solving, perception, language understanding, and decision making. Another term that I would like to give the definition to for our audience to be more aware is that generative AI. And it's a type of artificial intelligence that can create new content like text, images, music, based on patterns learned from existing data rather than just analyzing or predicting. Therefore, what people would do in a more simpler term, in another way to understand it evenly, is that what programmers do is that they add in and they teach AI programs about already existing things. Like they'll put in an image, and the AI program will then train from that and learn from existing content, and then create new ones later on when giving certain commands, already having base knowledge of what that subject is. So moving into my method, how exactly did I gather my information? And my method was using surveys as well as using qualitative and quantitative analysis. Why I chose this specific method is that it's similar to another research article that I mentioned earlier previously by Nathan Aile from the University of Caldwell, for he was also interested in how students personally viewed AI, and he decided that he was going to perform a questionnaire consisting of 25 students, if I remember correctly, and through this he was able to gather some information, a spectrum of strongly agree to strongly disagree, and from these findings he dubbed it as a double-edged sword. From this he would gather answers that were incredibly mixed, from saying that, they believed that AI was beneficial towards them, they hadn't seen no harm in using it, but some were also, admittedly, they said that they felt that AI was also holding them back, and it was also making them question their academic integrity as well as their academic confidence as well, due to them becoming so over-reliant. And apologies, I misspoke. He actually had 100 participants within his study, not 24. So through existing research and through my own possible questions, my hypothesis was gathered through that students utilize AI for more open-ended stimulus-based assessments, being more related to literary-based assignments. And the students that have struggled with a certain subject rely on AI more. Due to this, I believe that students who struggle in certain subjects may turn towards AI in a sense to just get it done, or in a way that they believe that it's faster and more efficient. And as a student myself, or as a current student myself, I always look for the methods that are most applicable in the moment, that are more efficient than anything else. And as well for literary-based assessments, I believe that when it comes to writing essays, students find that incredibly time-consuming, that they believe more that using AI to generate AI or essays in just seconds would be more prone. So when conducting my experiment, I decided to also look at outside factors that I considered and wanted to add. So it was types of AI programs, class types and difficulty and rigor, as well as what type of subjects do students find themselves using AI more in, and that will all be explained. So when I was conducting and formulating the questionnaire, there was one section where I decided to ask what AI programs do they find themselves using more frequently in, and which ones are they more prone to use and they're more acquainted with. And here I have some examples that I listed in the questionnaire so that they could list themselves if they were aware. And I have here ChatGPT, Snapchat AI, Goth, Gemini, DeepSeek, Photomath, Brainly, and Grammarly. Why I pick these certain programs is due to the fact that how they present themselves or how they advertise themselves, as well as ChatGPT and Snapchat AI being incredibly popular within society right now, with Snapchat AI specifically being on a more adolescent and teen phones, and it's incredibly easy to access, as well as ChatGPT becoming or is the more popular among all of these as well, especially in the United States. So how did I conduct my survey? It consisted of 24 students. Survey had open-ended and multiple choice questions, as well as ensuring anonymity and consent forms before they started the questionnaire. And if they were under the age of 18, their parent would also have to come forward and sign, or not sign, but just click on a certain button saying, yes, I approve of my child taking this survey. So how I exactly gathered the information was through Google Forms. It's a survey-based application that's incredibly easy to access and to formulate and construct your surveys, and you can share these through a barcode or simple link. So again, connecting this to existing research, these two research groups here have also used survey-based assessments to gather personal thoughts and opinions on AI and their personal usage as well. Here are my references. So after finally conducting the survey and leaving it up for about 6 weeks, I unfortunately wasn't able to get as many responses as I wished, but I still had to keep going with it. So from this, 24 people were able to answer my questionnaire, and from this, 50% of students answered saying that they used it for more open-ended questions. 25% used it for note-taking, 13% used it for other, and 13% used it for more multiple choice. Moving on with this graph, it seems that students were more prone to using generative AI for its broad implication and its incredibly loose usage, with ChatGPT being the first one up, Snapchat AI being the second one, and as you can see here, it might be a little confusing to see that it's 31 responses, but this was due to the fact that students would type out how many responses were numbered of AI usage. So for example, the student will list what AI programs they were most prone to use, and they will list several, and then I would count how many times were mentioned. And see here that students also would put what subjects they struggled in more, as well as, and it's seemingly that in more STEM-based subjects that were found more, that had the most struggle in, with chemistry, calculus, physics, math being the top competitors, and English just coming in close. And these results led to the correlation finding of 0.67 with a strong positive relationship, with the p-value being under 0.05. So as you can see here, that when students were struggling with in a subject, that they would respond with no, that they didn't see no, they didn't see themselves like relying on AI as frequently. And here's another graph saying, does this subject you struggle most in make you use AI more? And they would respond by saying, yes, it made me respond, or it made me use AI more. And finally, it says, do you feel that AI is affecting your personal learning? And students would say, no, I do not feel that they were becoming over-reliant with AI. So what does this lead me to my conclusion? That students primarily used AI for open-ended / stimulus-based assessments, and they also display that students are more prone to turn towards generative AI programs, as well as students who struggle in certain subjects utilize AI more in that particular one. Contrary findings were that students were still confident about their academic competence despite being reliant on it, possibly due to primarily using AI as a fact-checking tool. Also, students use AI for more STEM-based subjects than previously anticipated, where I initially thought that they used it for more literary-based. So some limitations that I came across when performing my experiment were the possible biases in answers. They could be putting in more answers that seemingly fit to their narrative or to make themselves feel better to the contrary, as well as an incredibly small participation group, while I might have more room for marginal error due to my small participation size. There was also limited existing research on the subject, while again, to reiterate that there was numerous amounts of AI or research on AI in the academic setting. There isn't much on what I was trying to figure out myself personally. And if for any possible replication, there is a need of a broader and more diverse group of participants as well. And here are my references.